Plato once wrote that love is a kind of divine madness. Not sweet, not gentle, not the romantic lie we've been taught to worship, but a dangerous intoxication that can enslave a man's soul. Imagine that, the greatest philosopher in history, the man who defined logic and reason for the Western world, warning men that love itself is a trap. Not because women are evil, not because intimacy is wrong, but because desire has the power to chain the mind more tightly than iron shackles. Most men don't see this. They believe love will save them. They dream of the perfect woman who will complete them, heal them, make life meaningful. But Plato whispers a darker truth. What you call love may only be your own weakness reflected back at you, magnified until it consumes you. Love, he says, is not always a gift. Sometimes it is the most seductive prison. Think about it. How many men have fallen not by war, not by failure, not by poverty, but by love? Kings destroyed their kingdoms for it. Warriors abandoned their honor. Ordinary men lose themselves every day in obsession, heartbreak, or blind devotion to someone who never cared for them. Plato saw this pattern centuries ago, and he warned us. But his warning is not easy to hear, because it demands that you look at your own hunger, your own longing, your own desperate need to be loved. And the question becomes, are you in control of love, or has love already claimed you? When most people think of Plato, they imagine the stern philosopher of reason, the man who built the foundations of Western thought. He was a student of Socrates, a teacher of Aristotle, and the mind behind the Republic. Yet, buried in his dialogues, especially in the Symposium and Phaedrus, he reveals something startling about love. He does not dismiss it outright, but he calls it a divine madness, a force that can elevate or utterly destroy a man depending on how he submits to it. To Plato, love is not simply romance, nor lust, nor marriage as society defines it. Love is a form of longing, a hunger for beauty, for completion, for the eternal. At first, this sounds noble, almost poetic. But hidden within this longing is a trap, because longing is always born of lack. When a man chases love, he confesses to the universe that something within him is missing. And once you move from fullness into lack, you are already weakened. You are vulnerable. Plato saw how men lose themselves in this vulnerability. The lover becomes intoxicated by the beloved, convinced that without her, he is incomplete. The beloved becomes an idol, an object of worship, and the man, once strong, once independent, now chains his dignity, his freedom, and even his reason to the whims of another. It is not love as mutual growth, but love as dependency, as madness. He illustrates this through myth. In the Symposium, Aristophanes tells the story of how humans were once whole beings, split apart by the gods, condemned to wander the earth in search of their missing half. It is a beautiful tale, but it contains the poison Plato wanted us to notice. If you believe someone else is your missing half, you will forever crawl through life incomplete, desperate, begging the universe to restore what you think you lost. This is not strength, it is enslavement. Plato contrasts this with what he calls a higher form of love, one that transcends the body and points toward truth itself. Instead of clinging to a person, a man should use love as a ladder, rising from physical attraction to intellectual connection, from the fleeting to the eternal, until he sees beauty itself, unchanging, pure, divine. But how many men climb this ladder? How many rise above their obsession with flesh and desire? Almost none. Most remain trapped at the bottom, worshipping women as idols instead of pursuing wisdom. And here lies Plato's greatest warning. When you confuse love with salvation, you surrender the very thing that makes you a man. Your reason, your self-command, your pursuit of truth. A woman can inspire you, yes, but if she becomes the axis around which your life spins, you are no longer a philosopher, no longer free, you are a captive. Consider history. Think of Paris of Troy, who abandoned his duty, his kingdom, his honor, all for the love of Helen. His desire sparked the Trojan War and cost countless lives. Was that love divine, or was it madness? Plato would call it madness. And this story is not unique. Time and again, men in every age have lost their way, blinded by passion, confusing longing with destiny, letting desire pull them into ruin. Plato himself lived in Athens, a city intoxicated by beauty, wealth, and drama. He saw how men of power bent themselves into slaves for love, how they betrayed friendships, abandoned reason, and fell into shame, all in pursuit of women who held no more divinity than any other mortal. For Plato, love was a mirror, revealing not the power of the beloved, but the weakness of the lover. And this is where the teaching cuts deep, because it forces you to ask, what do you truly seek in love? Do you seek another person, hoping they will complete you? Or do you seek beauty itself, truth itself, the eternal that no human being can ever fully contain? If it is the former, you are doomed to disappointment, chained by your own hunger. If it is the latter, then love becomes not a prison, but a path to higher strength. Yet Plato knew most men would fail this test. Most men would drown in longing. They would mistake their obsession for destiny, their weakness for romance, their addiction for love. And in that failure, they would lose themselves, just as men still do today. Plato's insight on love may have been written thousands of years ago, but you only need to look around today to see how prophetic it was. Men haven't changed. Desire hasn't changed. Only the stage has changed. Where once men chased beauty in the marketplaces of Athens, now they chase it through glowing screens, endless swipes, and digital illusions. The trap remains the same. Think about modern relationships. How many men approach love as if it is salvation? They believe that if they just find the right woman, their loneliness will disappear, their emptiness will be healed, and life will finally make sense. They are not building themselves into strong, independent beings. They are waiting for someone else to complete them. Plato would look at this and shake his head, for this is exactly the trap he warned about. Social media has amplified this hunger to an unbearable degree. Men scroll through curated images of beauty, measuring themselves against impossible ideals, convinced they are unworthy unless they can claim such a prize. Women, elevated as idols by filters and attention, are placed on pedestals they never asked for, while men kneel in quiet desperation, hoping for a like, a message, a sign of validation. It is not love, it is worship. And worship, when misplaced, is slavery. This slavery has consequences. Men give away their power without realizing it. They tolerate disrespect because they are afraid of losing the person they worship. They stay silent when they should speak, compliant when they should lead, submissive when they should stand firm. In their attempt to keep love, they lose themselves. And in losing themselves, they lose love too. Because no woman truly respects the man who bows too low, who bends his spine until it breaks. Plato would remind us that love is not meant to make you less of yourself, but more. If you feel smaller, weaker, more anxious because of love, then you are not in love, you are in bondage. True love, in Plato's higher sense, is supposed to push you upward toward beauty, truth, and strength. It is not supposed to hollow you out and leave you trembling. Consider rejection. Modern men fear rejection as if it is death itself. But why? Because they've been trained to see a woman's acceptance as proof of their worth. When she says no, they hear the universe saying, "You are nothing." But Plato would say the opposite. Rejection is only proof that you were seeking wholeness in the wrong place. If you understood that wholeness is already within you, that your true purpose is to pursue wisdom, strength, and truth, you would not shatter at rejection. You would not beg for validation from someone else. Then there is control. How many men have built entire lives around trying to keep someone? They obsess over texts, over signals, over moods, living in constant fear of losing what they think is their missing half. This fear makes them manipulable. Marketers exploit it. Dating apps profit from it. Whole industries are built on the silent panic that men feel when they believe they are not enough. Plato would have called this a sickness of the soul. And it is. But here is the deeper point. The sickness doesn't come from women. It doesn't come from love itself. It comes from the way men enter love, from a place of lack, of incompleteness, of emptiness. If you approach love as a man already whole, already strong, already aligned with truth, then love can elevate you. But if you enter it hungry, desperate, begging, then you are already enslaved before it even begins. Plato's ladder of love, as he described in the Symposium, is almost invisible in modern society. We stop at the first rung, physical desire. We obsess over beauty, over bodies, over attraction, but rarely do we climb higher, to admiration of character, of mind, of virtue, and beyond that, to the love of wisdom and truth itself. That's why so many modern relationships collapse. They are built on attraction without transcendence, on passion without foundation. Fire without stone burns bright, but it does not last. Now think of society at large. Weak men, desperate for approval, are the easiest to control. Governments, corporations, ideologies, all benefit from men who chase endlessly after completion outside of themselves. Men who believe that love will save them are men who will sacrifice their freedom for comfort, their dignity for attention, their truth for acceptance. A man without self-command is a man already conquered, even if no one raises a sword against him. And this is why Plato's warning cuts so deep. It's not just about romance. It's about how you live as a man. If you fall for the trap of believing someone else will complete you, you hand over your soul. You stop climbing the ladder of love toward truth, and you sink into dependency, into weakness, into obsession. You may call it love, but in reality, it is fear disguised as devotion. What does this look like in practice? It looks like the man who changes his entire identity for a relationship, then feels lost when it ends. It looks like the man who tolerates disrespect because he is afraid of being alone. It looks like the man who sabotages his mission, his growth, his destiny, just to keep someone from walking away. It looks like the countless stories of men who destroy themselves over love, not realizing that what they thought was salvation was the very chain dragging them down. Plato's warning is not cold-hearted, nor is it anti-love. It is the opposite. He saw love as powerful, divine, transformative. But like fire, it either warms you or burns you alive. The difference depends on how you hold it. If you let it consume you, it destroys. If you master yourself first, it elevates. And so the question becomes, in your own life, do you stand as master or as slave? When you enter love, are you climbing upward, or are you collapsing into need? Do you see beauty as a pathway to truth, or as a cage you desperately cling to? Most men never ask themselves these questions. Most men remain trapped. And that is why Plato's voice still matters today, whispering across the centuries. Love can make you divine, but only if you refuse to let it make you a prisoner. Plato did not write to entertain. He wrote to unsettle, to provoke, to demand transformation. His warnings about love were not abstract ideas, but survival codes for the soul. If you ignore them, you fall. If you follow them, you rise. Let's carve them into clarity. The first lesson: never seek completion in another. Plato's entire warning begins here. If you enter love from emptiness, you will always be owned by the one who fills it. She will not respect you, because no one respects a man who cannot stand on his own. Build yourself first. Become whole without anyone. Then when you love, it is not a desperate grasp. It is a free gift offered from strength. The second lesson: beauty is only a doorway, never the destination. Plato spoke of the ladder of love. The bottom rung is desire for beauty of the body. Most men never climb higher. They worship flesh as if it were eternal, and when beauty fades, so does their devotion. The wise man sees beauty as a spark pointing upward. Admire it, yes, but let it lead you beyond appearances, to character, to virtue, to truth itself. If you stop at beauty, you remain a slave. If you climb higher, you become a philosopher king of your own soul. The third lesson: do not chase love, chase truth. Modern men ruin themselves because they pursue women harder than they pursue wisdom, virtue, and mastery. They make love their god, and like all false gods, it punishes them. Plato's voice is merciless here. Seek truth first. Build your strength, your mind, your vision. Let love come as an ally on that journey, not as the road itself. A woman can walk beside you, but she cannot walk for you. The fourth lesson: never give what should be earned. Many men pour out devotion, gifts, time, and attention without asking if the woman has proven she deserves it. They confuse generosity with weakness. Plato would call this a failure of reason. Respect must be mutual. Value must be tested. If you give everything too freely, you teach her to give nothing in return. Guard your worth. Offer it only where it is met with equal fire. The fifth lesson: suffering is the proof of false love. Plato's philosophy is clear. True love elevates. It makes you more courageous, more noble, more aligned with truth. If your relationship is making you smaller, weaker, and filled with fear, then it is not love, it is bondage. Stop calling your chains romance. A man who suffers endlessly for love has mistaken a prison for paradise. Cut the chain. Step back into your own light. The sixth lesson: solitude is better than slavery. Men fear loneliness more than anything, and that fear drives them into toxic bonds. But Plato reminds us, the man who cannot stand alone cannot stand at all. Solitude is not weakness. It is the forge where character is built. Better to walk alone in truth than to lie beside someone in chains. The seventh lesson, never idolize, always humanize. When you place a woman on a pedestal, she ceases to be a person and becomes a goddess in your mind. And no real human can live up to a god. Idolization leads only to disappointment and disillusion. See her clearly, with flaws and virtues both. Only then can love be real. Worship is not love. Worship is blindness. The eighth lesson, master yourself before you master love. This is Plato's ultimate command. If you cannot rule your desires, your fears, your hunger for validation, then love will destroy you. But if you conquer yourself, if you gain self-command, then love becomes your ally, your elevation, your ladder to truth. Everything begins with the war within. Win that war, and you will never again be enslaved by love's illusions. So let us condense all of this into a voice you cannot forget. Never enter love empty. Build yourself first. Never stop at beauty. Climb higher. Never chase love. Chase truth and let love follow. Never give what is unearned. Guard your worth. Never glorify your suffering. Cut chains disguised as romance. Never fear solitude. It is your proving ground. Never idolize. See clearly. Never seek love before you master yourself. These are not gentle suggestions. They are hard laws. Break them, and you will break yourself. Follow them, and you rise above the countless men who spend their lives enslaved by illusions of love. Plato's warning was not about avoiding love. It was about purifying it, about rising from the lower rungs of obsession and desire into something divine, something that strengthens instead of weakens. To ignore his voice is to accept bondage. To listen is to step into freedom. Plato's voice is carried across more than 2,000 years, and yet it speaks as if it were written for you, here now. He saw love not as a game, not as a fantasy, but as the most dangerous and divine force in the human soul. It could elevate you to the heavens or bury you in chains. And whether it elevates or destroys depends entirely on you. Most men will never listen. They will continue to kneel at the altar of beauty, convinced that salvation lies in another's arms. They will sacrifice their strength, their dignity, their destiny, all for a fleeting sense of completeness. They will call their prison love, and they will die never knowing that the key was in their hands all along. But a few men will hear Plato's warning and awaken. They will see that love's greatest trap is not women, not desire, not rejection. It is their own weakness. It is the lie that says you are incomplete, the whisper that tells you happiness exists only in someone else. If you believe that lie, you are already conquered. The truth is merciless. No one is coming to save you. Not a woman, not a relationship, not even love itself. Salvation is the work of the man who confronts himself, who builds himself, who climbs the ladder of love not by worshiping beauty, but by using it as a doorway to truth. This man does not beg, he does not cling, he does not lose himself. He loves fiercely, but never from need. He gives, but never from emptiness. He is free, and because he is free, his love is real. So here is the haunting paradox Plato leaves us with. Love can make you divine, or it can make you a slave. If you remain blind, it will devour you. If you awaken, it will transform you. The choice is yours, but the cost is everything. Do not mistake chains for devotion. Do not mistake desperation for love. Do not mistake beauty for truth. If you kneel before the wrong altar, you will lose your soul. But if you master yourself, if you rise above the trap, then love will no longer frighten you. It will empower you. Plato's warning still lingers like a shadow over every man who dares to love. Beware of the trap. Because if you fall, no one will free you. But if you climb, no one can stop you.